dropping his son off at college last week. So Sheets, what's going on? Say hello to the people. Tell us what's been going on for you.
Again, just a lot of kind of cool life stuff going on. Back under quarantine, and we're taking it seriously, which is a little annoying because it is kind of a ridiculous quarantine. But, we are New York tough. We are New York tough and Syosset soft. That's the way I like to say it. But I was going to say that, you know what? I'm home. I can get some stuff done, but then my internet crashed, and it's it's always a challenge. I said on an earlier show, it builds character, but every once in a while I would love to trade in some of that character for some efficiency. But we'll see how it goes. From a DFS perspective, hey, I can't say I've been doing as well as Bobby has. Bob, I'll tell you, man, Bobby is a much better person when he's smiling, man. And Bobby smiles a lot more when he's winning. And so I'm really, really happy when, they say when you have kids that, you're only as happy as your least happy child. So for me, this chat is only as happy as its happy contributor. So everybody's in good shape. I'm going to be in baseball for a couple of K, which was good news. Used one of Bobby's State Minnesota Twins geniuses, Byron Buxton. And Bobby has been just ripping it up on the A. Hasn't quite, he's a little greedy, man. Like if it were me, I'd be getting second and thirds all day long. I'd be saying, oh my God, I am freaking God's country right now. But Bobby's much more competitive, man. He's like, this is ridiculous. Why can't I get you? Which is why Bobby's the best. How do we go on at the same consistency, yet get over the top enough to get you that first place?
Yeah, man. I appreciate most of what you were saying. I cut out a little bit there at the end, but it's true. I am probably a better person when I'm smiling. And I definitely have been winning, which has been really nice to have like a consistent winning. But it is a little bit one of those things where when you don't win for a little bit, you look back at these streaks and you go, damn, I just missed some opportunities. And not that you could do anything really different. It's just frustrating because you'd like to have the best things. But anyway, I'm here ready to get after it today. I think we're ready to push past the 4th, 5th, 6th range, and we're going to get into trying to get the upper level. So I think what we'll do is we'll start with NBA. How's that sound? Are you ready for it? Looks like we lost you. Okay, we're losing. Sheets is cutting in and out a little bit, so you're going to have to bear with us for a second here. We're going to jump into the slate in just a second, but can you hear me? See, this is why we come on a few minutes early. We need to try it out to see how it works, and we're going to have some technical issues. In my area, powers are going out all the time. We have fire issues everywhere. It's really a crazy apocalyptic type world. But also, we've got a lot of sports going on, which has been nice. So if you're going to be cooped up, you may as well be in here. Unfortunately for Sheets, he's cooped up and his internet stopped working, which is just crazy to me. I feel like you should have an auto if you're quarantining because of COVID. You should have auto internet working. Like you should be able to have somebody get priority get out there. And he spent 3 days trying to get him out there. It's not working. He's going to try to jump back in right now. We'll try and see how this works and try and get back into it. But Sheets, how you doing over there?
Yeah. No good?
It's cutting in and out a little bit. But we'll get to it anyway. If it doesn't work, we'll just cut it out. But, no big deal. We're going to get into Toronto and Boston. I think this is an interesting game because you have Boston as a small favorite here. I actually think this is going to be a tough closeout for Boston. I like Boston better as a team, but I think that Toronto is just going to come to play. They're going to play their guys a million minutes. We know what's going to happen. I know it happened in the last games too, but I expect this to be a hard-fought game, and I think that the value would be betting on Toronto, in my opinion, and just betting it straight up, not taking the points. But I also like Boston to win the series, so that's kind of a tricky one because I also think if it goes to 7, it's going to be tricky. But I don't know. I sort of would lean a little bit Boston, and just in terms of a straight sports bet. How about you?
I'm kind of starting to get under as they get like those game 5, 6, and 7s. Things just kind of tend to tighten up a little bit. So as these games are much more competitive, teams are. I do like to kind of lean towards the under. So that would be my opinion on this game.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think the under is definitely the way I would lean more likely, but I still think that the value for DFS is interesting. So let's talk about that real quick. I know it's not the best sound ever, guys, so sorry about that. Just hanging there with us. Hey, John, thanks. Good to see you. Glad you got the last show. All right. I just got a message from State Kings, which I will take care of after this show. I think from the, just from a straight betting, like, look, these guys are going to be popular. You're not fooling anybody in this spot. It's not like an unusual, it's 2-game slate. But I think that you're basically playing Lowry and Van Fleet in almost all your lineups on both sites. Do you have any different? I mean, I guess FanDuel becomes interesting, but do you have a different opinion than that?
Yeah, I do. The way I kind of look at things like this is I look up kind of the top and see where my priorities are. So like, the way I'm looking at it is Jokic, Leonard, and Tatum. Just figuring out which of those. I mean, I'd love to make sure I got at least one of those. But once you start to get 2 of those, it becomes really, really difficult. So that's the way I'm kind of prioritizing it. Like, I don't know if I'm necessarily going to need to get, to have Lowry. Is that dumb? I mean, are you not looking to spend up?
I think even Siakam too. I think all 3 of those guys are likely to exceed 5x tonight. I think you want at least 2 of them in your lineups, and maybe if you don't have 2 of them, you play Anunoby. We obviously have to wait on the Ibaka news. That's what I'm a little bit worried about. Let's see. I don't know who you're talking about, John. Let us know who you're talking about. I'll answer your question. You said, am I worried about them getting shut down in a blowout? I don't know who. We're worried about Toronto getting blown out. Well, you think it's not like these guys aren't going to play minutes? I mean, if they're getting blown out, you're going to get 40+ minutes out of these guys. They're not going to get blown out by 60. There's no fear in that one at all. No, that doesn't happen in closeout games at all. Yeah, no, absolutely, never, not even the slightest. Sheets, I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. Never the slightest bit concerned. Sheets is out of here, but no, not even the slightest bit concerned at all about those guys. The Ibaka thing is going to be interesting. It's going to make Gasol obviously a better play. I think that it's opened up. I think that we're at the point now where Norman Powell is at a price where I think that we have to start seriously considering him. And I think that you might see some good things out of Norman Powell tonight. So, yeah, especially if somehow Ibaka is limited, I think Norman Powell becomes a very, very strong play and could potentially see more minutes in like a smaller lineup. Or even a lineup, he could even play like any of these guys. He could play Ibaka at the 4, and then you have Gasol at the 5. I just think that it does open up a lot. I think Anunoby's minutes are safe, and he's not going to get played as much at this price because of what's happened lately. But I think he's still fine here, and I would actually encourage people to play Anunoby as well. I really like the Toronto side. It's extremely condensed rotation. It's going to be basically 7 guys playing, and then you have 1 guy who may not even play at all. So we'll see. I really, really think you want at least 2 or 3 Toronto players in every lineup tonight. Personally,
it's one of those things where it's not really that type of thing.
Never in a million years in a closeout game. I mean, sure, of course. Like if he's out somehow, he comes in and he plays 10 minutes, and it's asking for a bizarre outcome. I don't even know why if they would need to play him. Period. It's not like they need to match up with Boston's size. Okay. So I'm sort of out on that one a little bit. So like looking at it now, like I originally had Robert Williams as a better play than Norman Powell, and I'm actually going to give Powell a tick up, even I mean, if Ibaka's limited at all or out, that's what I would say. And if he's just, even if we think he's just limited at all, I think we have to consider like everybody on the Raptors much, much more in play, especially at their prices, which for some reason on DraftKings don't go up. On FanDuel, you can do different things. It's a little bit of a different story. All right, we lost Sheets again. It's going to happen with him. So I'm just going to keep going, and then if he pops in, great. If not, we'll see how it goes. Thanks, John. I'm glad that makes sense. Yeah, Norman Powell, I don't have him as a lock. I would not say he's a lock, but I do think that if Ibaka's out, he definitely becomes a much, much better play. As it stands right now, he's just to me a good value when there isn't a lot of value. Not good value, mediocre value. Value with upside. Let's put it that way. Robert Williams hasn't flashed the same upside, so that's where I'm leaning. On the Boston side, I think Jaylen Brown is the preferred guy on DraftKings. Actually, the preferred guy is probably Daniel Tice. Those two, but again, they're going to need a little less size today probably. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out with how much they actually play Grant Williams and Semi. Obviously, game flow. You'd worry more about Boston if they were to get blown out because they actually could rest their guys and they have a game 7. But Jaylen Brown is the guy I have the most interest in. I don't find myself needing to play Jason Tatum, and I think there's a lot of Jason Tatum talk every time, and he can always get there, and he might actually not be too crazy high owned. The fact is, in this whole series, he's got there once at this price, so I don't think that I have to get Jason Tatum. I think Kemba Walker is the same thing. It's a tough matchup for him, and I think he gets – I got him on the night where he had the big night, but I think other than that, like he's going to be fine probably, but I don't think he's going to win a tournament for you with the way that they run things there. Jaylen Brown would be my guy, but again, I don't think you need any of them. Also, Marcus Smart is fine. I think Jaylen Brown and Tice are the best plays on Boston's side.
You know what, Bobby? You tweeted about this a few days ago when you were screenshotting or whatever you were talking about. When with the NBA in the playoffs, the reason why it's difficult for kind of your typical DFS like data junkie, right? Rely on projections that that are based on season-long data without realizing that when you get into the playoffs, things are just different. You know what I mean? Like the usage just becomes that much more condensed. The minutes become that much more condensed for the teams that can, condense the minutes, right? So where normally you might say, oh, maybe this could be a kind of low-owned guy if he gets a few minutes more or whatever it is. I mean, the fact is as you were mentioning, these Toronto guys, they're going to be playing 4+, between Siakam, Van Vliet, and Lowry. And the Celtics, for better or worse, they're just much more spread out. They could just do a little more, do some different things. So to compare a play like Kemba Lowry, you know what I mean? Just the fewer minutes that Lowry has as a floor like that makes it. I don't know, Lowry kind of tough to fade, as you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, other than the blowout, you look at Lowry, he's basically a lock for what he's been doing. So I don't know. Look, man, John, sorry about the poor internet connections, man. Like, you got to understand, we're living in a weird apocalyptic world. Sheets is in quarantine. Out here, the power goes out every day, and a lot of people I know are actually being, taken out of their homes. It's a nightmare out here too. So it's just a really weird world that we're all living in at the moment. But I think it was interesting, the points that we made. I do think that is the way you want to lean, obviously, Lowry. I do think you want Van Vliet also. I think there's no problem with them together. Same with, you can play them with Siakam as well. Anyway, John, I appreciate that. All right, we're going to jump over to the Clippers and Denver. Clippers are an 8-point favorite here. It seems like too much based on how the series has gone. And yet I'm going to tell you right now that I like the Clippers to cover this.
I'd like to tell you something from a DFS perspective that I don't know what it is, but nobody plays Nikola Jokic. Like he's been 20% owned, 2-game slates.
I've had it
like
every time. I know.
When he's like the best hitter. You know what I mean? And I just really don't even get it. Now with that said, I have this really bad scientist freaking build on FanDuel. I have Jokic in 0 lineups of the 10 that I have. I'm trying. Maybe I'm being too fancy with this. Like I'm saying, like some Robert Williams lineups. I have some Zubac lineups and stuff like that. I guess in the name of.
I don't think you're not like off the board with those lineups.
Okay.
I don't think there's that much ownership difference between those guys, between like Zubac and Williams. Well, Zubac, but Zubac will probably be 25 to 30% owned.
Okay.
I'm guessing Harold's. Yeah, I don't think you're being as mad scientist as you think you are. So I think you're okay.
That's fine then. Okay.
So you're saying I actually like Jokic again. I think that's how you beat this team. You don't want to say must-win game for Denver, but if they want to keep staying close in the series, I mean, we've basically seen him outside of the blowout in game 1 play, just absolutely be dominant, and they haven't had an answer for him. I think that I don't see any reason that wouldn't happen again. I'm inclined to lean Jamal Murray. I guess I would like to play as a tournament play, but he had a good game the other night. And he put up 45. I don't know. this is like a great, like they actually have bodies they can really throw at him defensively. And so I personally lean Jokic if I'm of the guys I'm playing. I think they're going to give Michael Porter Jr. a few more minutes because it's just he's been too productive offensively. They need the offense. I think you might at some point see a little less from Jeremy Grant, but he's playing 1 million minutes, so he's of course a solid play because of that. Anyway, we also got
it doesn't matter how much upside and how much talent Michael Porter seems to flash. He just won't have it in there at the end. It might have cost him. You know what I mean? Like it's not a great defender, but crap. I mean, he's.
Yeah, I mean, people are trying to argue the Jamal Murray, and I don't mind if you want to play Jamal Murray. I'm just going to ask you: do you think Jamal Murray is a better play? Like, I actually would take points, raw points, Kyle Lowry and Van Vliet ahead of Jamal Murray tonight. I think they're close, but I think they would probably be just right about it, just barely ahead, especially Lowry. I actually think he's a little bit ahead. So Murray's whatever. He's fine. He's not. If he's going to be low owned, take the shot. Of course, I'm going to throw him in some lineups. You know, I'm playing a few lineups, but as of right now, I don't see that you like need to get him in. I don't see him as being a much better player than these guys. Sure, he can always get hot, so he can prove he's a good GPP play all the time. But you're not like getting low ownership on him, and you have other guys who are basically similar ownership who I just think are better plays. Jeremy Grant is the interesting one. He can do absolutely nothing for 1 million. You know. I mean, it's just he's just become like a 3-point shooter, and they can fall, and he's going to play a lot of minutes. We've seen this story before with him. He's been on winning lineups of mine, even though he's not really done anything. 50% ownership probably seems pretty high. I don't mind taking a pivot to Paul Millsap and hoping that he can be productive in the minutes he does get. He does look bad, but he also looks like, I mean, even in game one, he can do enough. You know, he put up 33 fantasy points in game one. I know steals and blocks involved in there. But I think at 4,800, that's an interesting pivot at what I think is going to be significantly lower ownership than Jeremy Grant. I don't mind playing them together because they will play minutes together, as will Porter with some of them. But I don't think you can't like play all three of those guys together. You just have to play two of them. And I think Gary Harris is a really, really like interesting play that probably will be lower owned than I think maybe he should be. The problem with me with him is I watch the games and I just feel like he's much better in real life. He doesn't shoot the ball enough, obviously, for fantasy to be as relevant. He had 4 steals in the last game, so you don't get excited about it. But I'm trying to figure out – I definitely want him – let's say I was playing 2 big lineups or 3 big lineups. I think I'd want him in one of those 3. Maybe even one of 2. I don't know. It's right on the fringe there. Any thoughts, Sheets?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. First of all, Grant gets – he's aggressive, he steals. And I'll tell you this, I mentioned this a few weeks ago, and it's come to light. You know, you play Michael Porter, by the way, you're getting a pretty decent rebounding floor. I mean, he chases down like almost every rebound that he's like really near. And in a weird way, he's almost looks like a safe for me. You know what I mean? So I'm still going to go back to him. I like Grant. I don't know if I can do the Millsap thing. I just, but it's 2-game slate. I guess you can do it.
If Michael Porter gets more minutes tonight and he gets hot at all, you're like you can't win without him. Basically, that's the truth. Because I mean, this guy took 17 shots in 23 minutes the other night. Like, if he gets 30 minutes, like I think he will be active. I think he'll try and stop Murray. So I really like Porter actually as the play for upside in tournaments over Grant, even though Grant's minutes are so much more secure. Grant's obviously the safer play, which is odd because he can do nothing in 1 million minutes, but he will be playing those 1 million minutes and probably find a way to get there at the end. I mean, Grant even took 14 shots in the last game and he only had 15 fantasy points. That's pretty scary. Like that's actually hard to do. All right, so that, I mean, just to sum those things up, like, I mean, I guess what I'll do real quick, Sheets, and let's just see if it works. I don't know how it's going to format. I'm going to try and share just an update of my initial builds, and I just want to get your thoughts on these things. And anybody else out there, get your thoughts in there too. Please also reminder, ask us any QQs. We're going to talk some baseball in a minute. Please give us the like, thumbs up. Remember, 20% off everything at BetQL. You want to make sure to get that in now before football season because the deal's great, and I think you guys will get your money paid for in absolutely very little time. They've been awesome, especially with the 4- and 5-star bets. Anyway, hopefully you guys can see that. If you need to zoom in, do it. I'm just going to leave those up there. Sheets, can you see that by any chance?
No, but remember, I'm paper cup and string, so don't listen to what I say.
All right,
But I
so
don't see.
I've got I basically have like half, in my big lineups. I've got Harrell in 60% over here. I still like Harrell's upside in this tournament, in this series. I'm a little surprised because Zubac has actually been really, he's been good, so they haven't played him as much. But he's been active. You look at how much he's gotten to the line in this series, and I could just see the boom Harrell game is going to come at some point, and I think that I want to take that shot tonight. So I have, you can see I have some Zubac also, and I have Jokic paired there with Harrell. I have some Jermichael Green, who we didn't talk about. Didn't play a ton of minutes, but he got an uptick, and he actually played really well in the minutes that he has played in this series so far. And he played 26 and 21 in the first two. I'm not saying he will again. I'm just saying that at 3,700, he certainly should be in the mix as a play along with Powell. Now, maybe we prefer Powell, but you certainly, in fact, that's what I'm going to do just to show like a way of just making one little pivot here. I think I actually do have Powell in another one, but let me I'm going to do this, and this will become Powell. But yeah, I mean, I think Powell has the more upside than a guy like Jermichael Green, but Jermichael Green you could play in the same lineup if you wanted to go really stars and scrubsy. I'm not as interested as usual in Kawhi tonight, but I am interested in PG. I mean, I'm fine with Kawhi. I actually think he's fine. I just would rather play Jokic. But I think that you've got a real conversation when it comes to the other to Paul George, because that's the guy who I feel like could put up the 51 or 50 some odd point or whatever. And I guess the same thing goes with Murray. I think that Paul George and him only being shooting guard eligible on DraftKings is kind of weird. I still like him in this matchup. I don't think we've seen his best from him yet, even though he's played well at times. I'm sort of inclined to lean Paul George's way tonight, and I think that him and Murray will have similar ownership, and I think I'll be heavier on George than I will be Murray. How about you?
I was going to ask you. Yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought about Kawhi. I think it's become so easy to play, like literally every slate. And I'd rather. I mean, honestly, I'm going to try some lineups without either Jokic or Kawhi.
Of course, yeah,
and get and FanDuel too. It's It looks a little. I don't.
All right, we got to stop. We can't hear anything you're saying, man. I'm sorry. So we got to stop that part of it. But here, take step back one second. Let's jump over, because I'm actually going to share my FanDuel lineup, and maybe you'll be able to see, or I can at least read that one to you. It looks like we just lost Sheets again. I'm going to share my FanDuel screen just to give you guys an idea real quickly of what I'm doing over there. Remember to get some QQs in, guys. I like this show as a back and forth. We're going to talk some baseball in a minute, so all that. What are my favorite plays tonight? Well, look here. I'm sure. Let's see. You're going to share. Let me share my lineup first, and you'll see what I like on. This is my first build, so this is not going to necessarily be final. But oops, that didn't work. Let me do this. I'm going to share this, and here we go. All right. So my FanDuel build is basically right now. I have Lou Williams because of his cheap price. I mean, it's reasonable price. I wanted to get a little bit. I thought not necessarily different. I don't love it necessarily, but it's sort of just an initial build of where I'm at. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that it's a logical build. My favorite plays. I mean, look, I'm not going to include ownership and everything. I like Harrell for tournaments. I guess I'll say that part of it, but I do think that Lowry, potentially lower than he should be owned, Anunoby, Van Vliet, Marcus Smart on FanDuel, Tice, Porter, Jokic. Those are my main guys in most of my lineups, as you can see from the lineups I've shared so far. So that's pretty much where I'm at with those. Those are, I don't have like a 5. Do the 5. I don't have a 5. Oh, 5 like 5 and 5. That I could save that for baseball. But in basketball, those are you're sort of seeing the guys who I'm playing. Just one more time before I bring Sheets back in, because we're going to try him out one more time. I'm going to share my other screen one more time and make sure you guys just get to see my first FanDuel build, so you can get an idea, my DraftKings build, so you can get an idea of what we got there. So any questions, any thoughts, guys? Remember to give us a like and thumbs up. We really appreciate y'all. Let us know what else you need to see. So here it is. There's the FanDuel, the DraftKings build. You can see pretty much what I was saying. I really like the Toronto guys. I don't mind stacking them all up together. And I think Jaylen Brown's my favorite Celtic. So you can see I got the correlation in that particular lineup that way. And then down here, I've got the the Jokic with Harris and Paul George getting some more, and Millsap getting more players from that game. So I've got it sort of spread a little bit. Obviously, I can't actually do this. Let me make sure I do this before I forget. And we will move on over to baseball in just a few minutes with Sheets. I'm going to bring him back in right now, actually. Sheets, how you doing? Sheets, can you hear me? Sheets? Hello? Well, all right. It doesn't seem to be working. I tried it. All right. I tried it. I'm going to have to go solo. And that's what it's going to be. Guys, we're going to do this sort of a little bit of speed style. And we're going to go game by game in baseball. Thanks a lot, man, John. I appreciate it. 8 straight winning nights in NBA. I haven't, it's crazy. You think with these weird slates, I like to be contrarian and it's hard to do, but finding that little play here and there has been working. What's up, Tyler D? How you doing, man? We're about to get into some baseball. I'll go game by game real quick and talk about some of my favorite, most interesting plays. It's basketball, so excuse me. You can see my early builds in baseball. I tried to do the pay up thing. I tried to do the Dunning thing. I'm doing a little bit of both of that. Oh, actually, you can't see. I realized I unshared my screen. And in the meantime, I'm trying to bring Sheets back in, and Sheets it's not working. But you can see, I've got I'm into the Dodgers, obviously. I don't think I'm off the board, obvious, with that play. I know Texas might be popular too. This is a little bit more of a chalky build. I'm probably going to have to de-chalkify this a little bit. But it gives you an idea of who I do like. And real quickly, running game by game, I'll just go through it and talk about who my favorite plays are. Again, I looked through the schedule today, and I don't think I would be too heavy on any team tonight. I think that the Mets are going to get overlooked in DFS. I'll say that. But there's nobody I would straight out sports bet here. I don't think I could do that. So anyway, let's get into it. Right now, Dunning is obviously going to be popular. He's obviously a logical spend down. You have Pittsburgh, a bunch of righties. Well, a bunch of not great lefties, I should say. So I think we want to play some Dunning for sure. Kid's got upside. He's got pretty good stuff. We've seen some decent K stuff from him early on. I know he struggled with the back-to-back against KC. That's fine. I think that the Dunning is really interesting. I like that it is, John. I think the Mets are really interesting. I don't know if you saw my FanDuel, but I do have them on FanDuel a lot more than I have them on DraftKings right now. Anyway, so I, again, Dunning is absolutely in play. I also don't mind these Pittsburgh bats against him because of their prices. You're just getting like the absolute cheapest possible. Well, it's actually not the cheapest Texas is, but you're getting, Josh Bell at 3,100, which we would have thought you were making up last year. Colin Moran, even 36, is an expensive guy, and Eric Gonzalez, who I like, is 37, and he's the other expensive guy. But you've got Frazier, Reynolds, and Polanco all under 3,200. They all make a ton of sense. I don't know that I want to go for a full stack, but I don't mind doing that in case Dunning does get a little wild. Sometimes we see these kids have good starts, and then they start the league starts to figure them out. Maybe they get a little bit wild trying to overpitch. Maybe you get into the bullpen a little bit earlier. He has, gone 88 pitches in the last game, but you see he walked 4 guys. If he gets a little wild here, I could see Pittsburgh potentially putting something together. So I don't mind that. The same way I don't mind a White Sox stack against the Brewers. Against the Pittsburgh, basically a bullpen game. The problem I have is somewhat the pricing, and you have a little bit of a stadium downgrade. These guys still have the power to do it. It's just tough to argue with these guys over the other guys I like at these prices. I prefer, Bellinger to these guys. I prefer Betts to these guys, assuming the Dodger lineup cracks how we think it will. So I'm very interested in taking a shot here. With the White Sox, but I think that in reality they don't end up making my final cut because I like other lineups better. Basically, simple as that. The Marlins are sneaky cheap, and they seem are sneaky tonight, and they seem cheap. You were going to get to another team that I was going to talk about. So good on you. I like Alfaro's power. He did, maybe because I'm biased, because he was awesome for me last night. He even stole a base for me last night, which is crazy. Aguilar and Cooper. Cooper actually might be the higher owned of the two. I like both. I'll have a mixture of both. I've got them on both sites. You see, he hit a home run last night. We know Cooper's got power. You have, Malone, who's a control pitching lefty. I don't know that I really want to stack this whole game, but I don't mind taking any of these guys as 1 or 2 man. Marte is just really expensive. but even Lewis Brinson, you could take a shot on. You know what I mean? Hey, this kid once hit 3 home runs in a game for me. I only hit one this year, but no, there's other spots you can attack. I don't think I want to go full Marlin stack, but I don't mind a mini stack is sort of where I'm at right now, which is how I felt yesterday. And, could have gotten more out of them, but I got a pretty good stack out of them anyway. So I'll take it. On the Atlanta side, I like Lopez a lot as a pitcher. I don't think people are going to be all over Atlanta today. They're kind of expensive. I think that you can play Austin Riley and you can play Freeman and Acuna and these guys at these prices, but again, I just prefer other plays at these prices. So that's not where I'm personally going to go. And likewise, at the same time, I don't have any interest in either of these pitchers. I also don't think Tommy Malone is maybe quite as bad as the perception of him is. He's not a good pitcher, but he's not a guy who necessarily gets lit up. You see Philly got to him. Philly gets to every lefty, by the way. But other than that start, he pretty much hasn't been like the guy you'd want to have picked on in any start, with the exception of that first Boston game of the year. Those would be the two. So I'm not quite as high on it, especially for a Miami team that doesn't have a ton of power. So I'll take a few of those spots, especially the first baseman I like. You can play them together on FanDuel. That's sort of the extent of my interest in that game. I think that we got to remember these Mets, actually have been way better. They struggled last night as not shock, but semi-shock, especially over on FanDuel. I still like them better over on FanDuel because their prices are much more affordable. But you look at what you're getting here. You've got Conforto, Smith, Nimmo, McNeil, who's getting hot. McNeil now with 3 straight games with a homer after not homering in the first 50 or 40 or whatever many there were, somewhere in that range. And look, he's back up to over 300. This guy's just a producer, and he's too cheap. So McNeil's a guy you want to have. You can use the second base or outfield, which is nice. I like all these guys. I like Alonso. I think he's cheap. He's bad. He's struggled this year. I don't care. I'll always take shots on the power guys. You got to remember also, once you get past Lopez, you got a lousy Baltimore bullpen. So Mets are a full go for me. Again, I prefer the Dodgers, especially if that roof is open, which I believe it is. I'll double check that. But I am a fan of the Mets tonight, and I will definitely be getting some Mets stacks in as well. The Angels in Texas, interesting game because you have a bad hitter's park and you've got lousy starting pitching. I'm going to answer a question right before I get to that, actually. Would I full stack Miami if it meant I could play you and Bauer along with Kershaw? I'm thinking about it, but you're looking at my lineup right now. It's got Bauer and Kershaw, and I'm not playing Miami, so you can see that you can do it without that. And I've got a full Dodger stack with you with Bauer and Kershaw. So this is pretty basically my answer to that question. While yes, I will have some exposure to it, this is what I would prefer to do. And if I wanted to even get a little differentiating here and do something a little funny, I could just go like this and play one of my favorite one-offs from that Miami stack. I don't like the full Miami stack personally very much tonight. I think it's okay. Atlanta's bullpen's bad, but I think there's just better stacks out there. Similar to how I felt a little bit last night. And while Miami definitely was great last night, there was other stacks that went off too, and you could have gone different ways. And I just think there's other stacks I like a little bit better. Let's see. Let me just do that in one lineup just for now, so I can save it and enter it into whatever I please later on. On your screen, you can't see my lineup. How is that possible? Because I'm looking at the share. It looks like it's popped up in live over here on YouTube. I don't know why we wouldn't be able to see it. I've got it called up. Can everybody else see my screen? Can you let me know? I don't know. I don't know why it's not popping up on your screen. It's too small, I guess. Sorry about that. I guess if you zoom in, maybe. But I have the full Dodger stack, four-man Dodger stack, not full stack. But using some of the Texas bats with Kluber and Kershaw, you can totally do it. I'm sorry, with not Kluber. I always do that with what's his name. I always do that with Bauer and Kershaw. I also like you tonight, so it's an interesting conversation when you get into all those. I'll keep going through the game by game, and hopefully, even if you guys can't see it, if you could just bear with me as I go through it, because it's it just makes it easy once I've got it called up. Angels in Texas is interesting. It's basically a pick'em game, and two lousy pitchers. Teheran used to be a good pitcher. He's just not the same guy anymore. And the weird part is I could see this spot being like hey, shouldn't we have maybe considered playing Teheran? Shouldn't we have thought about it? He's had some tough matchups so far. He's obviously struggling, but what if he could get through it? No way. We can't do it, I don't think, but Texas has been that bad to where we can question it. Overall, the Texas bats are going to be really popular because you can see how cheap they are, whereas the Angels aren't going to get the ownership because they aren't so cheap, except for outside of one position. So I think what we want to do, and that's Matt Tice, I guess. It's a different Tice than Daniel. I don't know. I still always pronounce this one wrong. But I'll take a shot on this kid at minimum cost in order to get my studs in, be it hitters or pitchers. And anyway, so I don't love this lineup in general, but I like Nick Solak and Gallo, and I think you can mix them in with Trevino and or whoever else you see fit. You can use the Taveras at 2,100, who's been good in the outfield. I mean, it's okay. It's just I ended up doing it because they fit, but I'm not doing more than like 2 men and 3 men. That's about as far as I really want to go, and it's mostly going to include Gallo or Solak in that because they're the most talented players in that team. On the Angel side, I really like the idea of trying to stack this team like as a contrarian. You've got Justin Upton, if he's in the lineup, is really cheap. Obviously, that would be the priority guy. Mike Trout, I'm always into playing Mike Trout, especially when other people aren't going to be able to. So I'm into taking a shot here. Let's play Mike Trout. That's pretty much where I'm at. I play Mike Trout. The stack is fine. I like Ohtani quite a bit. I just feel like there's better spots. I just don't think that I'm going to go for it, but I'm not ruling it out. It's just not one of my stacks. I'll reiterate my favorite stacks at the end. Again, guys, drop QQs in the chat anytime, NBA or MLB, and I'll be happy to answer them. Colorado, San Diego. This game feels like a blah tonight. Do I think the Orioles can go off tonight like they did last night? I don't like the Orioles very much. I'm fine with trying to pick on people, but no, I do not. I think it's definitely not likely, and I don't even mind Porcello as a pitcher. The Orioles got it going. I don't mind Dwight's what's his name, DJ Stewart. Excuse me. Look, you got a minimum priced outfielder. You can play these guys, and that's fine. You got a cleanup hitter batting fourth against Porcello. It's always going to be fine, especially one with some pop. So I'm totally good with that. But I don't think I'm into the full stack. You could definitely do it. It's very easy. That would be sort of the other stack alongside Texas that you could probably do pretty cheap. But it's not a lot of exciting bats with a lot of upside. So it's not my favorite thing, Tim. But thanks for the question. It's a tough. I certainly could see it happening, but I just prefer the other spots, especially the late night ones. We've got Zach Davies and Senzatella for Colorado, San Diego. I don't have interest in either of these pitchers. I wouldn't surprise me if Davies had a good game, but it's just not gonna do it with the other pitchers up top that we have. Darren Ruff is fine. Sorry, I didn't mention Darren Ruff, but I mean, there's so many guys in that price range that make sense. It's not like we go, oh, Darren Ruff, we're getting some superstar, you know what I mean, of all time, and we also haven't got to that game yet. But he's absolutely fine at 2,300. Yeah, absolutely. These guys are all dirt cheap. Darren Ruff is probably a lot more risky than he probably will have more ownership and is more risky than DJ Stewart. I don't know if he'll have more ownership, but he's more risky for sure because he's had the hook early in like almost every game that he's played. So it's hard for me to have too much faith in that value play who might get one at that. So he's lower on my list than all these other guys are because of that. Now he does have power, so that's nice, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to tell you right now, if you play any hitters in the Cincinnati-Chicago game, you're doing it wrong. You're playing poorly, and you're making a giant mistake unless somehow the weather shifts drastically in the next few hours. It is a nightmare situation for the hitters, but the pitchers are awesome. So I'm very, very into the both pitchers. I think that my plan is to be overweight on the field on all the top pitchers today because of the value on DraftKings, and I'll sprinkle in some Dunning too. But it's going to be a mix of Bauer, Darvish, and given all factors, I think that Bauer is your best pitcher. The Cubs lineup can be a little bit more patient. They also strike out the highest of any team on the slate, so I wouldn't be overly scared. You've got a lot of weak spots in the lineup, but you do have some power upside against you. But again, you don't worry about power in these conditions. So what are we worried about? Bauer can get singled to death, but he's probably going to strike out enough guys where it doesn't matter. So I like both of them a ton. I'm leaning a little bit Bauer personally. That way, that's right where I am. This is not a spot where you play any bats. Again, just a reminder: do not play a bat in that game. I don't care if one gets there later today; it doesn't mean anything to me. It's wrong. Luzardo is an interesting tournament play against a Houston team that is obviously not the team that we're used to. I don't think I'm going to end up with much of it because I'm liking the upper tier, and I'm going down to Dunning. And I think Luzardo has a decent enough K upside. I still think Houston's confident enough to get to him enough here. most of these pitchers where their one giant game is against Arizona, just be wary because I'll get to why I like Kershaw in a minute. But I think it's interesting just talking it out. Like, just thinking about if I was playing 150 today, I definitely would have like 10, 20, maybe even 20% Luzardo in large field. I just don't need him for my main lineups, and I'm mostly playing large buy-in, smaller field tournaments. As far as the bats go in this game, I think Oakland's really interesting, but I don't find myself really interested in individual hitters much outside of Matt Olson, who you see I have here. And Houston, I really like. I love George Springer. So that's basically, you can see that's what I've got in my lineup right now. That's sort of what I'm going with as of right now. So those are the guys I like. I know Springer has not been the same this year. Still between the power and speed upside, but especially the power against lefties. That's what you're playing him for. 4,200, obviously a great play, even against a tough lefty like Luzardo. So that's mostly my interest. But I don't mind if you want to stack up Oakland. I just don't know how I would do it, and I just like other stacks way better personally. But I could see Oakland getting there. It's one of those spots. I also am a little worried about everything up north looks like it's like the fire stuff is real. Dodgers in Arizona, assuming this game's open, has an open roof. Well, regardless of that, I like Kershaw a lot. Kershaw should win the Cy Young Award this year. Actually, I see a couple questions in chat, so I'm going to get back to that in a second. Let's see. Dan Fandor, what's your favorite guys? Some Mets and Kershaw. Oh, Eric asked, do I like the Braves? I think that Lopez is actually a good pitcher. So they're fine, but at their prices, I certainly don't think that they're better than other teams. The bullpen sucks for the Marlins, so you can go on that. But I just think there's much, much better stacks personally. I'm going back. You guys are talking about going back to it. It's funny because all these people I saw doing victory laps, but I didn't see any lineups from any of them online last night. And I did really well last night, but I don't understand, just because your lineup does well doesn't mean like people, if you're min cashing with your other stacks, like you didn't need these guys to win tournaments last night. You could play San Diego, the Dodgers. I mean, mostly Lux, but that's what I did, and it worked out really well. All right, thoughts on the so that's my thoughts on the Braves. A Reds fan, they're always breaking your heart. DFS in real life. Yeah, well, the Reds, so you don't have to play Bowery if you want to. You can just switch over and play against them then. Either one of those pitchers is awesome. Clayton Kershaw should win the Cy Young Award this year. He hasn't thrown 100 pitches in a game this season. A little worrisome. I'm worried about the leash Dave Roberts will give him, but knowing Kershaw the way that I've seen him over the years, he tends to like to keep his rotations the same, so he's not going to do a Walker Buehler and come in for 2 innings. So I think that they're going to let him pitch tonight. And against Arizona, you see, even Kershaw already. I pitched against them twice, what did he have? 27, and that was not stretched out Kershaw. And he had 31. I really like Kershaw to pair with the other guy, one of the other guys, or you can pitch both those guys in that game, and I think you can get away with it without giving up too much offensively. There's some good value in some good spots, and it's good like medium tier value too, like Springer, Pollock, Lux, guys like that. You can see I even have Varsho against Kershaw in one lineup here because I needed 2,200 for a catcher. But in general, definitely like Kershaw, and I love the Dodgers. They're going to be popular, but it's going to be less popular than you think maybe for the high-end guys because people are going to want to pay up. So just keep that in mind and try and see if you can squeeze one of those guys in. I would recommend Bellinger is the guy, but he's back at home. But certainly wouldn't fault you for Betts, who's been the better player overall this year. But Bellinger definitely looks good, better at the plate, heating up, and he stole 2 bases yesterday. He stole 4 in the last 7 games. It's always makes you feel good for a guy to add that with his upside. And I do think stolen bases are something that's a little bit can be narrative driven, and him going back home to Arizona certainly doesn't surprise me that he's running all over the place there. Favorite Chiefs pitcher on DK. I think there's risk involved, but I like Dunning. He's like the only cheap pitcher I'm really using, basically. I don't mind Anderson. I just haven't gotten there yet. Maybe I will. But I don't mind him, and that's in this last game here. I'm certainly not playing. I personally think it's a mistake to stack Seattle. I don't see why anyone would think it's a good idea. I just don't have any interest in them. To Tyler Anderson, when he pitched in Colorado against the team's a lot better than this. I wasn't stacking against him, so I don't think I'm going to do it while he's in San Francisco. Now, I'm not saying he's a great pitcher. He's certainly not, and he can give up a little bit, but he doesn't give up power. He keeps the ball on the ground. So you're asking for a lot of BABIP stuff to go right in a game in San Francisco, which even with the new stuff is still not the hitter's park that whatever everybody's leading you to think it is. So Tyler Anderson's okay as a pitching option. I like the Giants side a little bit. The main guys, the obvious ones would be like Flores. I think he's probably the priority. I'm actually going to remind myself about Flores. And yeah, I don't think I'm fully stacking it, but I don't mind Flores. You can mention Ruff at 2,300, which we already talked about. Again, might only get one at bat or two, but certainly playable at that price. Obviously, you can't play Brandon Crawford. Longoria, I don't like at that price in that spot. Solano and Flores would probably be the best plays on the San Francisco side. Brandon Belt at 3,400, lefty. I don't mind it, but not the most exciting thing in the world. So, of course, Texas is the chalk, Eric. Look at their prices, and everybody wants to be up to pitching. So, if you want to get different, don't play Texas. But you also can get away with playing two guys who get you a total of 10 fantasy points and still hold your stacks up. So I don't think it's that big. The White Sox breakdown. Oh, okay. So the White Sox, basically, I like the White Sox fine, but I prefer, if you're going to spend that kind of money and they're more playable on FanDuel, I would prefer the Dodgers, Mets, some of those teams ahead of the White Sox. Favorite plays for the Sox don't have. That's partly why I don't like it. There's not a specific thing. They're a bullpen game. Moncada, they're all too expensive, so they have a huge stadium downgrade against a decent bullpen. So I don't know. So I'm not personally interested. I'm interested. I'm interested in them as a stack. I don't have. There's not like an individual guy who stands out as being a monster play. Moncada, although he hasn't been quite the same since COVID. Any of those guys, they're just all really expensive. There's a better play at every position. Grandal is always fine as a one-off as lefty. Bodie is got power, but Bodie's a terrible play. Terrible play. I don't care what happens or who hits home runs in Cincinnati or Chicago. Everyone needs to pay attention to weather and understand what run scoring is, because the projection in this game is lower than any other game would be if the other games were even 7 innings long. You have a 6.5 run total. That's like ridiculous. Like if you're playing hitters in that game, we need to talk, and we need to stop playing DFS entirely. You cannot play a single hitter in that game and feel good about it, especially because there's no discount. It's not like you're getting anything for it. Do not play the Cubs and Reds tonight. Do not play the Cubs and Reds tonight. I'm just going to remind everybody. No Cubs and Reds. Just want to remind everybody. It sucks too because now they're going to score a bunch of runs. I'm a little worried. Like I have so much Bauer ahead of Darvish, but I'm starting to get a little bit worried because I think Darvish is safer, and I think my lineups I can probably find ways to differentiate. But I think Bauer just can tattoo this slate. He's been a little bit off lately, but the truth is that he's a much better pitcher. In reality, in my opinion, not much better. He's facing a team that strikes out more. He's got the 14K strikeout upside in him. They can work counts. I just like him a little bit better. They're both good. They're both great. And honestly, playing them together, there's nothing wrong with that. It's weird, but it might be weird enough to win. So that's basically my spiel for the day, guys. That's pretty much it for baseball for me. We will have these shows done every day. We're moving it to 3:30 Eastern time, so make sure to set your guys' clocks and get in any last QQs right now while I do my little spiel. Remember, 20% off everything at BetQL. Join now. Great football analysis. You're going to get great plays from these guys, and I think it's a really good idea. I want to thank the people at BetQL and QLTV and RotoQL. Really enjoy working with these guys, and excited for what we're going to start. I wish there was more of our old people in chat, and it's unless I go on my channel, it seems to be pretty hard for that to happen. Eric says instead of Eric, I appreciate that info, but that's we don't need inside information like that about weather. We can find out better information because especially weather in places like Chicago, like it fluctuates so much. We should be listening to, and even though it didn't work out one night, that's one where I just always say that, and you'll be there. I mean, you go back to Roto Grinders for that. We don't have a weatherman. That's where you go listen to them. I don't see any worries. And I mean, what do we have here? A little bit of I think that the Houston Oakland game is scary, frankly, because I'm starting to worry that I just know friends in the Bay. It looks like the end of days up there. I just don't think they're going to play in the 2020. I don't know. So I'd be careful there with them and the Giants, I guess. So maybe we're going to cancel the Giants and A's unless we have super interest. we should at least keep an eye on it. It's a tough one. Do I think Nola keeps it rolling tonight? Maybe. I mean, I'm not going to pay $4,900 for a catcher on this slate personally, but he might. I always thought he's got talent. Yeah, the Fires. You guys, I mean, look at your friends and look online and do a quick Twitter search of Northern California weather. It looks like this is the end. That's exactly what it looks like. It's a nightmare. That's a scary thing for both San Francisco and Houston and Oakland, and we just need to be aware of what they might do. My guess is I don't know. It depends on how they'll play. I think they're gonna. I don't know what they're gonna do. We'll figure it out. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate you guys being in there. Get some last QQs in before I get out of here. Again, like and thumbs up, subscribe, all that's the good stuff. We really love having you guys out here. Thanks, man. John, really appreciate the kind words. Always good to see John, Eric in here, everybody else who joins us, Tim, Tyler D. We really appreciate it, guys. And I mean, it was fun going through the show with you. I'm going to cancel my screen share now and probably make some edits. I did, by the way, want to point out that I've been crushing the NBA, but I've been having my screen shares up. So maybe maybe it is worth it to take a little zoom look, because a lot of times I've made adjustments off my original lineups that would have won the tournament. And hey, maybe you could use it to your benefit. So anyway, all right, appreciate y'all. Thanks for hanging in there with us. For the people at BetQL, I am BobbyFi saying stay safe, and I'll see you.